Julius Caesar, one of Rome's greatest military generals, had risen to power through a combination of military prowess, political cunning, and popular support. His victories in the Gallic Wars and his subsequent crossing of the Rubicon River in 49 BC had led him to a civil war that saw him emerge as the unrivaled leader of Rome. By 44 BC, Caesar had been declared dictator for life, a title that alarmed many in the Roman Senate, who saw in Caesar's rise a threat to the Republic's cherished traditions of shared governance and liberty. As Caesar's power grew, so did his list of enemies. A faction of senators, fearing the end of the Republic and the rise of a monarchy, began to conspire against him. They called themselves the Liberators, convinced that Caesar's death was the only way to save Rome from tyranny. Among them were some of Caesar's closest allies, including Brutus, whom Caesar considered a friend and protege, and Cassius, a seasoned soldier who deeply distrusted Caesar's intentions. The plotters chose the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BC, as the day to execute their plan. They decided to strike during a Senate meeting at the Theater of Pompey, a place where Caesar would be vulnerable and where the conspirators, as senators themselves, could carry weapons without arousing suspicion. As the day approached, ominous signs and prophecies warned Caesar of danger. His wife, Calpurnia, had a terrible dream in which she saw Caesar's statue spouting blood. She begged him not to go to the Senate that day. Additionally, a soothsayer famously warned him to beware the Ides of March. Caesar, however, dismissed these warnings, confident in his control over the Senate and his people. He decided to attend the Senate meeting despite his wife's pleas and the omens that surrounded him. On the day of the assassination, Caesar was greeted warmly by the senators as he arrived at the Theater of Pompey. The conspirators gathered around him under the pretext of presenting a petition. As they closed in, the senator Tullius Cimber approached Caesar, pretending to ask for the return of his exiled brother. When Caesar declined, Cimber grabbed his toga, signaling the other conspirators to strike. Suddenly, Casca, one of the conspirators, drew his dagger and struck Caesar in the shoulder. Shocked and bewildered, Caesar turned to Casca and shouted, "Casca, what is this?" But before he could defend himself, the other conspirators began attacking. Daggers flashed in the dim light of the Senate chamber as they lunged at Caesar, stabbing him repeatedly. Despite his strength and experience in battle, Caesar was overwhelmed by the sheer number of attackers. He tried to fend them off, but the assault was relentless. When Caesar saw Brutus, whom he deeply trusted, among the attackers, his resistance faltered. According to historical accounts, he is said to have uttered the famous words, "Et tu, Brute?" and "You, Brutus?" as he realized the full extent of the betrayal. With those words, he ceased to struggle and pulled his toga over his head, accepting his fate. Caesar fell at the base of Pompey's statue, bloodied and betrayed, stabbed 23 times. The senators who had not been part of the conspiracy fled in panic, leaving the body of the fallen dictator lying in a pool of blood. The conspirators, believing they had saved the Republic, tried to calm the chaos that ensued, but the deed had been done. News of Caesar's assassination spread quickly throughout Rome, causing shock, outrage, and fear among the populace. Far from saving the Republic, the assassination plunged Rome into a period of chaos and civil war. The conspirators soon realized that their actions had not restored the old Republic, but instead paved the way for its demise. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal supporter, and Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, swiftly moved to consolidate power and avenge Caesar's death. Their efforts culminated in the defeat of Brutus, Cassius, and the other conspirators, ultimately leading to the rise of the Roman Empire under Augustus, marking the end of the Roman Republic. The assassination of Julius Caesar remains one of history's most famous betrayals, a dramatic turning point that reshaped the course of Roman history. Caesar's death, intended to save the Republic, ironically marked the beginning of its end, demonstrating how power and ambition can forever alter the fate of a civilization.